Nancy, thank you so much for making time with me, especially as we speak around this time of the year. It's the holiday season. Families are all coming together. They're shopping. They're, enjoying the festivities. That's not that's not the thing that's going on for everybody. Because as much as we enjoy the holidays, enjoy being with family, there are a lot of people out there whose lives are in a lot of ways the complete opposite. And your foundation and the work that you and your folks do really help those people have dignity throughout this time and dignity in their lives for what's going on with them. Can you talk a little bit about the foundation, please? Because it is so important work that you folks do.
Yeah, thanks, Reed. Well, it is, and especially at this time of year, it's more meaningful than any other time of year, I think, for families and individuals. So the St. Elizabeth Foundation has really been focusing in on, for 8 years now, learning how to care for our society's most vulnerable or the marginalized population at end of life care. Because you can appreciate most of our healthcare systems are really set up for the average individual, not for an individual who's marginalized, homeless, mental health addictions, or the incarcerated population as another example. And those that are very rural and have access to very, very few services. So we established Journey Home Hospice 8 years ago, really to take a look at how could we provide end-of-life care in a dignified way that responded to the unique needs of this population. And it has been short of being remarkable, to be honest with you, and a real privilege to be able to help individuals at their end of life when things are not that great. And you can imagine most people want to die when they die. Most people want to die at home. So the question is, when you don't have a home, where do you go to die? And where do you go to die in an environment where you feel like you are supported, where you are respected, irregardless of what your journey has been or what has brought you to the place that you are currently at. And so our hospice is full right now. We have 16 beds or 15 beds in Toronto and 3 beds in Windsor, and they're full right now. But we will make sure that there is a lot of living going on in these places and a lot of celebration of life and whatever people's traditions are around this time of year, that they feel the support and the love of our staff who treat them like their own family.
Here's the thing that I want people to understand this. Okay. Um, we have healthcare. We go to doctors. Um, we have jobs that pay for things like dentistry and things like that. People don't really, when they see somebody who's homeless, they just think what they think. They can think either I feel sorry for them or a message that I got from somebody once when I tried to explain a picture that was posted and explain that this guy's homeless. I've seen him before and he was on the subway sleeping. And the guy said something that was really cruel about this person. People don't understand. People in this situation, how are they supposed to know if they have cancer? How are they supposed to know that, they have something that will end their lives? Because they don't go to doctors. They're not, can you explain how this kind of works when somebody in that situation does realize that they're in that situation and how you folks help bring them in so that their last days are with dignity? And I hope I explained that right.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've said a lot of things in one concept. So, I mean, first of all, our society is really not that great. These are what we're dealing with are two societal issues, I guess, that we all struggle with.
Mhm.
One is end of life care. Really, nobody likes to talk about death and dying and end of life care and planning and to prepare for that. But secondly, the homeless. It's such a tremendous issue and we don't really know how to do with it, and we make our own assumptions of why somebody is homeless or why they have ended up where they have ended up. And so I always say, how we treat our most vulnerable population and people in society in this world is speaks a lot about who we are as people and as a society as well too. So we thought that let's shine a light on something that everybody can understand. One, we are all going to die at some point in time. And none of us want to die alone. We want to die someplace that's comfortable, surrounded by family, whatever that family is, loved ones and support, and be treated with dignity and respect. So that's the one comment that you made around people who perceive the homeless population, and they have no idea how they have gotten there. What
Now, I don't know if you know this or not. You just froze on me. So I'm going to do I'm not actually going to ask you to continue. Um, and I will edit it together.
Okay,
So whatever thought you want to start with, go ahead and I will edit that together.
okay, okay. So we're dealing with two societal issues here: end of life care that nobody likes to talk about, and the homeless population as well. And as a society, we all have our assumptions as to why we think people have ended up being homeless and on the streets. And to your comments, a lot of harsh comments, but we have learned an incredible amount from the individuals that we serve. And there's all kinds of reasons why people end up homeless and living on the streets. Secondly, so that's one point. Secondly, your point about having access to healthcare, it is difficult because often people are very distrustful of the healthcare system that we have. They don't feel comfortable going in to get follow-up care, and they typically end up in the emergency department or they're found on the street. And that's when then the diagnosis begins that they get some care. Now, I have to say there are some good programs in Toronto. One of them is called Inner City Health Associates that have physicians reaching out and going out onto the streets and in shelters to try to create those relationships. So I have to recommend that. And so individuals get connected with our hospice often through hospitals or through inner city health associates or other hospices in the areas that know about our work or through shelters. And so then we have a caseworker that goes out and meets with these individuals, establishes a relationship. Sometimes it takes 4 to 5. Sometimes it takes a visit to hospice. Sometimes they choose not to come into the hospice, but they come for some of the meetings and the events that we have, and eventually they make a decision to actually come into the hospices. So it's through referral, through our partnership and our broader network that individuals find out about the hospice and come and spend their last days with us.
And let's go back again because you mentioned it earlier. So let's go back. So they enter the hospice. They, have a short time. What exactly will happen for them? And I liked what you said before too, that for their last days, you help in such ways, especially when it comes to religion or what they believe in and things like that. I loved hearing that.
Yeah. So Rudy, all of the plans of care are created with the individual. They're co-created with the individual. I guess our question is, you matter to us. What matters most to you? So tell us about that so that we can, adapt our plan, work with you in the best way that we know how, based on what your needs are and what your desires are as you live out your last life. So in our hospice, we also find that individuals, once they come in, their medication is managed. They're getting 3 square meals a day. They're getting love and support through the staff and their street family that often comes in and spends time with them. They actually rebound and they start to feel better. So they are actually with us for a longer period of time, which is fantastic because that's where the trusting relationships are created. We have an amazing group of volunteers that does everything from that, listens to music with individuals, watches their favorite show, reads them books. We have an art specialty where people can be involved if they're artistic. We've had some really great paintings that have been drawn and left for us in the hospice as in a commemoration to the individual, what they were depicting as their life. We have music therapy. People enjoy music, so it's a people involved in baking and cooking to whatever their ability is. So it's, as I always say, there's a lot of living going on in a place that is known for where people come to die. And it's really to have that dignity and respect. Um, we also have then a managed alcohol and managed drug program for those individuals that are coming in and are having, challenges with those types of things. Again, we meet them where they're at and what's important to them and try to create that personalized care for the
Now
time.
you mentioned Windsor.
Mhm.
Is this just in Windsor? Is it expanding? Is it in other cities? If
Yes.
somebody is in Toronto, can they come to Windsor? How does that work?
Sure. So right now we have 13 beds in Toronto, in the city of Toronto.
Wow.
Yeah, we do. Yes. And so we started with 4 beds, then 10 beds. Now we have 13 beds. And 3 of those 13 beds are because individuals often do get better for a period of time when they're first come to see us. So we have an additional 3 beds that actually supports individuals to be more independent with their life and who don't receive as much care until their condition deteriorates and then they move back into the hospice space. We wanted to see about whether or not we could create a pilot site, not a pilot site, but whether we could create a center that was not in the same vicinity as our main one to see if we could support it from Toronto through to Windsor. So that's the 3 beds are there. And we partnered with a group called Also. And there we're caring for individuals who have both mental health disabilities as well as physical disabilities. And so the hospice is in situ within that facility, and we have realized that we can actually run hospices like a spoke and hub model, if you will. What we realized, now that whole process took 8 years to go from 4 to 13 beds. And we have fantastic partners. But what we realized, if we actually really want to do more to meet the needs on a national scale, that we needed to do something different because we can't do this alone. So we've been really trying to galvanize the coalition of the willing people who are interested, who are keen, who are passionate about this space. And we've created a national center that's focused on equity and innovation at end of life. And within that center, we're created education programs for all healthcare professionals in terms of this kind of work, how to set up a hospice, everything from policies and procedures to programming, to look at new models of care and different ways of doing things. So trying to keep innovative and creative as we're moving forward, looking at creating partnerships with housing as example. Typically, hospices are often set up as standalone structures. We've been working with housing organizations like Homes First in Toronto, where our hospices is actually in situ of a place where many people who are vulnerably housed currently live. So it's a beautiful partnership where we leverage one another's resources, expertise, and talent. Knowledge sharing and advocacy is what this center is also going to be about, not just at the provincial level, but at the national level as well, too, because we want to do more. We want to do more, and we need more people helping us to do more.
I'm just curious, and this may not be a fair question to ask, but have you found at any chance that these folks have maybe reconnected with blood family members that maybe they thought they couldn't because of their situation, because of being in your facilities? They've reconnected?
Yes, absolutely. And it is a fair question. Yes. And again, here we honor the wishes of the individual. If it's something that they are interested in doing,
Yeah.
then we will go to great extent to find their families and to see about creating that connection. And if not, then our staff and our volunteers really become, and their street family become the family that supports them through to the end of life. But yes, we've definitely had reconnections, and for many individuals, or I should say many or some individuals that are living on the street, their families are always worried about what will happen to them at their end of life. And I recall one situation was actually one of our very first young woman who was in our hospice, and we weren't able to connect them up quickly enough before the individual passed away. However, then we did follow up with the family. They came to see the site, and they were so grateful to think that their daughter died in a room with a window that was lovely and that people were who cared for her and supported her, surrounded her at her end of life. So even though we may not be able to connect right at that moment, we often do afterwards try to connect with families as well too, to let them know
How
what's
do we
happening.
help? How do we help? Volunteers, how do we help? Donations, how do we help? Getting into the ears of government officials, how do we help with all of that?
Yeah, yeah. So you know what? Awareness is the first thing, as you said. You know, creating awareness, and thank you for this program as a great example, creating awareness, having people bring it to the forefront of mind and wanting to do something about it and joining the movement. It really is a movement in my mind. Volunteers, we're always looking for volunteers. You could look on the St. Elizabeth Foundation website. We'll have applications for volunteers who really are the backbone of the work that gets done in the foundation. They're there every day, meeting and working with individuals and providing that time and care and presence that we all require. The St. Elizabeth Foundation is also always looking for donations. I'm happy to say that provincial government in Ontario currently funds probably about 70% of the total cost, which has gone up significantly over the last year there was a 40% increase, which was very substantial. But there are programming and there are other things that need to be funded outside of what the funds can be used for that we receive from the government. So, you know, donations go to meals, donations go to the infrastructure of the support, donations go to programming such as music therapy, art therapy, legacy work that we do, spiritual care that we offer and provide over and above the nursing and the personal support work that support workers that provide care in the home. So any donation is always welcomed.
And I was going to ask, can we donate? Do you need clothing? Do you need laptops? Do you need any of those kind of things that we take for granted, but they can definitely use?
Yeah, typically we don't because we have a small space. So what we find,
Yeah.
people are so generous. Honestly, Rudy, we get things like pianos and
Yeah.
clocks and equipment and all kinds of things. But we have a very confined space, so we don't
Okay.
often have room for it. Things like actually pajamas, socks, warm
Yeah.
things like that, toques, scarves, those kinds of things are certainly very, very welcomed. Laptops, because we have them on our own system, we're good with technology, but volunteering time, honestly, time is really what's most precious, in addition to any other types of donations. So great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this interview. Thank you so much for what all of you folks do. We're going to keep in touch
Great.
throughout 2026 because I want to find out about updates and because I know you guys have events
Yes,
throughout the year to help
yes,
raise money. So let's
yes.
do some interviews on that in 2026. But in
Okay.
the meantime, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the
Yeah.
best, and let's support the folks who need the support. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rudy. It was my pleasure. I really appreciate it. And have a happy holiday.